Hello and welcome to Shoulder Sizzler. So our class today is going to be focusing on our shoulders, specifically working the stability, the strength, and mobility of our shoulders. Your thoracic spine is part of the spine that the rib cage attaches to, and then your shoulder blades, your shoulder girdle all sit on top of that. So we'll use our breath to help us create space in our rib cage and working a little mobility in our rib cage as well with some thoracic extensions. And then that will translate up into the mobility of your shoulders. So how high you can get your arms above your head, how that glide feels on the way up too. Big component of class today is going to be working our scapular stability. So really pulling the shoulder blade down the back and kind of in so that it stays nice and tacked on to your upper back, your thoracic spine, your rib cage. There's a tendency to want to kind of wobble around when we're weight bearing on our hands. So we'll really focus on that stability of the shoulder and the scapula to help us stay nice and centered in our shoulder and nice and strong and nice and stable. Another big component of class is going to be cultivating that mind-body connection. So really moving from our scapula and not from your elbow or your wrist or your forearm. We want to move from those proximal areas that are close to our spine so that we can find stability and so that we can find mobility as well. So let's go ahead and get started. You will need a block or two for class today. We'll use them throughout a few times. So to get started, we can sit in a nice tall seat. Just take a moment here, gently close your eyes, soften your gaze, check in with yourself, notice how things are feeling, tuning into the physical sensation of your body and noticing what's going on there. If you're holding any tension or tightness anywhere, notice if you can soften into those areas. And then begin to bring your awareness into your posture without changing anything here. Just notice, how are you inhabiting your posture? Take a moment to reflect on how you inhabit your posture throughout your day. Class today will help you with that posture, will help you find a nice neutral posture so that you can stand tall, stand proud. Take your right hand to your low belly, your left hand to your sacrum. Your sacrum is a nice flat bone below your lower lumbar spine. Kind of sandwich those areas together. Feel a nice lightness. And then keeping your left hand on your sacrum, bring your right hand to the back of your head. Lower your chin in towards your throat a little bit. And then slide just the back of your skull into your hands so that your ears stack over your shoulders stack over your hips and your sacrum. So there we've aligned our triple S, skull, scapula, sacrum alignment, which you'll hear me refer to throughout class a lot today. Let's take a full breath in through the nose. Full breath out through your mouth. Inhale and exhale. One more time, inhale and exhale. Very good. Let's go ahead and get started. You'll grab your block and you're going to place it horizontally across your mat. And then you'll turn around with your block behind you, and your scapula are like upside down triangles on your back. So you can line the bottom point of your scapula with the bottom edge of your block. Keep your feet planted into the ground here. You may have to kind of wiggle around and see where it feels like you're making that connection with the bottom point of your scapula. And you'll stay lifted here. Take your hands to the sides of your hips and kind of tuck your tail for yourself. So you're creating this sensation of a tuck, but really you're putting your pelvis into more of a neutral position. So you should be able to feel your sacrum pressing into the ground. We just had our left hand there. Take your hands to the sides of your ribs and kind of draw your ribs in towards one another with a slight compression towards your back body. So we want to keep our ribs nice and intact today as we move throughout our class. Interlace your hands behind your head. Have your elbows open nice and wide. Keep the back of your neck long, your chin in towards your throat, and start to lean back just until you feel your scapula press onto your block. And then once you feel your whole scapula pressing into your block, find that pulling back of your ribs and start to side bend, essentially from side to side here, just scrubbing around your scapula, scrubbing around the muscles that hold on to and surround your scapula, while getting a nice little heart opener, a little chest opener here, targeting that upper back. We tend to round forward in our shoulders a lot, and then that pulls our thoracic spine forward as well, pulls our head forward. So all of those muscles that attach into our scapula, up into our shoulders, into our neck, all get pulled on a little bit just because we kind of hunch over throughout our day, whether we're sitting at a desk or a computer or whatever you do throughout your day, even when you're just sitting down for dinner, we have that tendency to slouch a little bit. So let's undo all that today. And you'll pause and center. Let's use our breath here to create a little more space. Inhale, expand your rib cage. Exhale, press your scapula into your block. Inhale. Exhale, press. Inhale. Exhale, press. Linger here for a moment. Soften into your block. And then slowly start to come up. You can roll to your right or left side. Slide your block out from underneath you and roll all the way down to your back. Place your block in between your thighs. You can take it the thinner way or the thicker way. I prefer the thicker way because then my knees don't cave in towards one another, but it's what feels good with you. Let your arms relax by your side for a moment and take a second here to check in. What's making a connection with the ground beneath you? What parts of your back body? And let's align our triple S again. Bring your hands to the back of your skull. Lift your skull up. Slide your chin in towards your throat to lengthen the back of your neck, and then set your head back down in that nice lengthened position. Fun little fact, when we're constantly shortening the back of our neck and looking up and straining our neck, we're signaling to our brain that we're in sort of a fight or flight stress kind of mode. So when we put our head into neutral, we're signaling to our brain, our nervous system, that we're in more of a relaxed state. So try and keep that in mind as we move throughout our practice. Walk your shoulder blades underneath you to reduce that rounding forward, to align your scapula, and then lengthen your tail, just like we did earlier, to feel your sacrum press into the ground. Without shrugging up your shoulders, take your hands onto your thighs and press your arms straight. If they don't go straight, move your feet farther away from you. Take a giant breath in through your nose, press the back of your rib cage into the ground. Exhale, lift up into a low bridge pose. You can lift just your sacrum here and leave your rib cage basket on the ground. Reach your arms up into the air, palms face one another. Keep your glutes nice and tight. Keep lengthening your tail towards the front of your mat. Now, right away, we're going to cultivate that mind-body connection and move from just the scapula here with a little protraction. So your left shoulder blade lifts up and away from the ground without lifting up your middle part of your upper back or without rolling over towards your right. Lower your left shoulder blade back down. Right shoulder blade lifts up and away from the ground, lower it back down. Start to alternate your sides here, just working from your scapula, just lifting and lowering. So there's a tendency to want to roll over to side. Nope, we want to keep our upper middle back nice and connected to the ground. And so we're working our serratus muscle here that wraps around like a little Christmas tree. It helps protract our shoulder blade, and it also helps with stability. So we'll really be working our serratus today. Pause with your shoulder blades on the ground. Continue to squeeze your block in your glutes. Flip your palms to face the ceiling. Spread your fingers nice and wide and take your right hand and pull back across your left fingers to stretch out your wrists. Allow your left thumb to open up towards the right so that you get space in the webbing there. And take big 360 breaths here, filling up the entire circumference of your rib cage, expanding, creating that space. And we're going to be weight bearing on our hands a lot today, so that's why we're stretching out the wrists like this. So if you need to come to fists or fingertips at any point throughout class, you can definitely do so. One more breath on this side. Go ahead and switch. Left hand pulls back on your right finger, so stretch out. So depending on what you do for work during the day, if you're just sitting at a computer at any point during your day, you're sitting in wrist flexion. So we want to do the opposite of that. We want to open up and create this wrist extension, especially when we're weight bearing on our hands. One more breath here. Exhale out. Bring your hands onto your thighs. And now slide your right hand up towards your belly and pull your belly back. So your hands right in between those two front hip points and below your belly button. So you want to find this drawing back of your belly. And then slowly, one little vertebrae at a time, you can start to lower down as you pull that space below your belly button towards your back body, all the way until you feel your sacrum press into the ground. Let's fire up into our core. Take your block, turn it horizontally, this hamburger way, and then float your knees over your hips and place the block right in between your knee joints. Don't allow your sacrum to pop up here. Now, as we move throughout our core work, try not to pull your knees in towards you. You want to keep them nice and stacked over your hips so that you can really target your deep core layers. Along with that, with your breath today, I want you to pull your belly back on your exhale rather than letting your belly poof up, okay? So when we pull back, when we empty out completely, we're giving ourselves more of an opportunity to really target those deep abdominal layers because we're more empty. So really try and integrate that throughout our practice today and throughout this core work. Interlace your hands behind your head, cup your elbows in so that they're nice and close and touching your temples. Take a giant breath in through your nose. Exhale, pull your belly back and lift up off your shoulder blades, pressing down into your sacrum. Lean your head back into your hands without lifting your chin or lowering your shoulder blades. Inhale and lower. Exhale, lift up. Good. Pull ribs back, pull belly back, sacrum presses down. Inhale and lower. Exhale, lift up. Hold. Open your elbows nice and wide without letting your shoulder blades touch the ground. Keep your chin in, the back of your neck is nice and long. Bring your elbows back in, inhale, lower. Exhale, lift up. Open your elbows wide. Chin stays in, shoulder blades stay lifted. Bring your elbows back in, inhale, lower. Exhale, lift up. Open your elbows nice and wide. Close your right elbow to your right temple. Twist through your rib cage to the left, keeping lifted off your left shoulder blade. So it'll be a tiny twist here. So you're keeping your spine long, you're keeping your neck long, and you're rotating from your rib cage. Bring your left elbow back in, turn back to center, inhale, lower. Exhale, lift up. Open your elbows wide. Left elbow closes, twist to your right. Feel your obliques fire here. Pull back with your belly, pull back with your ribs. Right elbow comes in, turn back to center, inhale, lower. Exhale, lift up. Squeeze your block. Open your elbows wide. Close your right elbow to your right temple. Twist to your left, keeping lifted off your left shoulder blade. Pull your belly back. Listen, slight change. Left elbow comes back in. Turn back to center, stay lifted. Open both elbows, shoulder blades stay lifted. Left elbow closes, twist to your right, keeping lifted off your right shoulder blade. Lots of demand on the core. Right elbow closes, turn back to center, inhale, lower. One more time. Exhale, lift up. Open your elbows wide. Left elbow closes, twist to your right, keep off your right shoulder blade. Right elbow closes, turn back to center, open both elbows, shoulder blades stay lifted. Right elbow closes, twist to your left, keep your left shoulder blade lifted, pull back. Left elbow comes back in, turn back to center, inhale and lower. Nice work. Bring your knees into your chest, give them a little squeeze. And then make your way onto all fours and take your block with you. Stack your shoulders over your wrists and pull your knees in pretty close to the backs of your hands so that there's less room for you to arch in your back here and let your guts and your ribs spill open towards the ground. So you're gonna take your block and you'll place it in between your shoulder blades, this vertical way, the skinny way, so you get some feedback here. Keep the back of your head lifted, tap into your triple S. We're putting weight on our hands right now, so pull your shoulder blades down your back to find that stability. And now we'll introduce a little retraction as well as our protraction that we did earlier. So inhale, squeeze your shoulder blades together behind you without popping your ribs open, without letting your tummy fall towards the ground. Exhale, push the ground away, spread your shoulder blades apart, but just keep it in your upper back. Inhale, soften and squeeze. Exhale, spread. Try this a few more times here. Little shoulder flossing. Again, we're connecting brain to body here. We're just moving from the scapula, from the scapular muscles. There's a tendency to want to let the ribs pop open, but just imagine somebody just tied up a super tight corset on you so your ribs won't pop open. This will come later in a class. Good. Let's pause. Take your block, set it to the side for a moment. All right, this next variation, you can watch me first if you'd like, and then you can try it on, or you can try it with me. So with our right shoulder blade, or with our shoulder blades in general, we really want to pull down the back, like I've mentioned before. So we're going to stagger our hands to bias one shoulder blade to work a little bit harder than the other. So you're going to stagger your left hand forward. Right hand is underneath you, underneath your shoulder. And just lower your left forearm down, make sure it lines up with your right hand, and that's a good indication of where you should place your hand when we do this stagger, because this will come later in our class as well. Keeping your ribs in, keeping your back from arching, you'll start by pulling your right shoulder blade down your back, grip your finger pads into your mat, keep your right shoulder blade pulling down, and slowly start to lower to your left forearm without dumping all the weight over to your left forearm. So you're trying to evenly distribute that weight as you control your descent down. And then you'll lift back up. You keep the right shoulder blade pulling down your back the whole time, and you evenly distribute that weight between your hand, both of your hands, as you lower your left forearm down. So here's what it looks like from the front. Your right elbow stays nice and snug in towards your side body as you pull your right shoulder blade down. Slowly lower down, keeping your chin in towards your throat, your triple S nice and aligned. So this should feel pretty demanding. It should not feel easy at all. There's a tendency to want to dump over into the shoulder or the forearm, but nothing's really happening there, right? So you can find a little bend of your right elbow as you lower down. And as you lower down, it's almost like you're pulling your hands energetically towards the back of your mat to get that stability. So let's go ahead and switch our sides, or you can pause and try your left side if you haven't already. Now your right hand will stagger forward. Grip into your finger pads, pull your left shoulder blade down your back. Slowly start to lower your right forearm down to the ground. Left elbow bends and points towards the back of your mat. And then you'll lift back up. Lower down and lift up. Try this a few times, keeping that left shoulder blade pulling down your back the whole time. There's also a tendency to want to just shift back, like butt to heels for whatever reason. Just don't do that, because then you're not using your shoulders at all. So you want to keep everything nice and controlled, nice and stable. All right, one more time. Lift back up. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So you'll take your blocks. You can set one on both sides of your mat on its tallest setting, because we'll use it to break down our twisted crescent. So go ahead and stand tall at the top of your mat. So with your arms today, I want you to focus on keeping your ribs in and reaching your arms straight forward and up without letting your ribs pop open. So there's that tendency to want to open up, arch the back, let the ribs pop open. That's just a compensation, because that most likely means that there's a lack of mobility here in your rib cage, which affects the range of motion of your arms. So really try and keep your ribs nice and braced, nice and organized, nice and held in. And you'll reach your arms straight forward and up rather than out to the side today. Challenge yourself, see if you can do that. All right, here we go. Shoulder Sizzler. Inhale, reach your arms straight forward and up. Exhale, hinge at your hips, keep your spine long. Step your right foot back, lower your right knee underneath your hip, untuck your toes, inhale, 90-90 lunge. Pull your front ribs in and up. It's like you're lifting your rib cage away from your pelvis. With your shoulder blades, pull them down to neutral, and let's start to add a little shoulder elevation here. Left shoulder blade reaches up towards the ceiling, right shoulder blade reaches up. Left shoulder blade reaches up, right shoulder blade reaches up. So you'll alternate your sides here, just moving from the scapula again, just getting that shoulder elevation, not side bending from side to side. See if you can make that connection. Pause in neutral, plant your hands, step your left foot back, plank pose, nice long spine. Lower to your knees, pause, pull your shoulder blades down your back, lower with control. Pelvis hits first, untuck your toes, inhale, baby cobra. Pull your shoulder blades down your back, your ribs away from the ground. Exhale, downward facing dog. Lift your hips up and back. Inhale. Exhale, step your right foot forward. Pull your left knee in underneath your hip, untuck your toes, inhale, 90-90. Get that lift of your rib cage away from your hips first, and then pull your shoulders back into neutral, but keep the lift of your rib cage. And start right shoulder elevation, left shoulder elevation, right shoulder elevation, and left. Alternate your sides, noticing how this feels, because this will come later in class as well. Keep your ears stacked over your shoulders. Pause, plant your hands forward, step your right foot up to meet your left, top of your mat. Inhale, rise to stand, arms reach up, pull your ribs in and up. Exhale, hinge. Step your left foot back, lower your left knee, toes can stay tucked. Inhale, 90-90 lunge, arms reach up. Keep your right glute nice and tight, left glute nice and tight, let your arms dangle. Let's roll the shoulders one at a time, up, back, and around, up, back, and around. Keeping hips squared forward, left glute nice and tight, but you can let your rib cage get involved because it's attached to your shoulders. Pause, plant your hands, plank pose, step back, hold long, chin in, lower to your knees, pull your shoulder blades down your back, slowly lower with control, chest and shoulder head stay away from the ground. Untuck your toes, inhale, baby cobra, pull your ribs back, press your scapula forward. Exhale, downward facing dog, lift your hips up and back. Inhale. Exhale, step your left foot forward. Pull your right knee in, stack it underneath your hip. Inhale, 90-90 lunge. Toes can be tucked. Let your arms dangle. Let's roll one at a time. Up, back, and around. Up, back, and around. See if you can feel your scapula rotating. Round your upper back. Pause, plant your hands forward. Step your right foot up to meet your left, top of your mat. Here we go, sequence one. Inhale, rise to stand. Exhale.